Hey, everyone. Hopefully I didn't say that too quick. Hopefully I gave you a minute to join. Drop something in the chat if you are here. Be the first to say hello is still what I see on the screen. There we go. Chris Williams wins. Good stuff. Well, that's it, everybody. Chris Williams is the winner today. We will be sending you a book in the mail. Congratulations. Just kidding. Hey, everybody. How y'all doing? I'm about to bring some people up on stage. I'm so excited about this today. Like holding this book is like a dream. I don't know. I never thought I'd have something like this, right? And it's just so cool. And the fact that it's about PodMatch, something that we all know and love, and the community behind it, I'm so amped up for it. So also I might be amped up because this is day 3 of me having coffee for the first time. I'm 34 years old. Does anybody not drink coffee, or has anyone never had coffee before? Here's the thing, Sarah, what in the world? And Tyler, never. Tyler, you should not. If this is the Tyler I think it is, you should not have coffee. Anyway, so I'm having like really healthy coffee. So like there's a way to do it, like I guess where it's really good for you and stuff like that. Anyway, so I'm doing it that way. I'm not like jittery or anything like that, but I do feel like I can run through a brick wall and probably not feel it. And also, who here saw the movie Limitless? Drop something in the chat if you've seen the movie Limitless or have any idea what I'm talking about. I think there's a show about it too. I feel like that's me. Like my brain it just unlocked. And not that I was ever tired before or anything like that, but I just feel like it's a different level. So I'm psyched about it. So if I talk a little faster than normal, or I sound like I need to go run a lap, that's because I just had coffee for the 3rd time in my life. So anyway, glad to be here with everybody. I'm going to bring some people up on stage, some of the authors, and we'll bring some people up for some questions along the way as well. Before I do that, though, I do want to share one thing. Actually, first, where's everybody coming? Where's everybody from? Like, not from. Where are you right now in the world? Digitally, we're all in the same room, but where is everybody? San Diego. Won't finish that quote today. Dallas, Atlanta, Phoenix, Arizona. There we go. We got Calgary, Alberta, Canada. What a great place. Seattle, Washington, Boston. Wesley, is Boston cold already? I'm just wondering if it, like, because Florida, like, I'm wearing a t-shirt and shorts, and that you have to take my word for the shorts. Sorry. But like, it's nice. We got Aero, Hong Kong, holding it down. We are officially global, everybody. Love that. Cold enough. Thanks, Wesley. Good to know. Cool. Philly, love it. There's a lot of places here that, we got someone, Tim, England. Welcome. Good stuff. Hong Kong, by the way, it's 1 a.m. So I think that Aero, as usual, wins for the furthest from me. I believe it's the exact opposite side, exactly 12 hours different. So pretty cool. Got Jason in Oxford, 5 p.m. Okay, good stuff. Love it. Well, I'm excited to be here, everybody. And what I'm going to do first is just kind of dive into something. We'll bring some people on stage, and we'll kind of dive into this whole thing. But I always like to start with why. I know somebody kind of coined that phrase, but starting with why has always been the most important thing, right? Even before someone named Cynic decided to write about it. And for me, it's always important to kind of lay this groundwork. The most important part of being a podcast guest, right? Like when you're going after guest mastery, like when this is like your goal, this is what you want to do. The most important thing is to keep the listener in mind. Keep the listener in mind. And I don't say listeners, I say listener, because we should always do what we do for one person who needs it most on that day that we're there to serve. I'm a firm believer in this, that if we show up in the best possible way to serve that one person and we change that life, then isn't it worth it, what we do? Like, isn't our message worth sharing? And so for me, it's always a constant reminder. And when I'm jumping on a podcast, when I first got started with it, I had the wrong mindset. I'm like, I'm going to grow and expand and reach more people. And that's great. Like, that should happen as a byproduct. But when you get on saying me, my reach, my influence, my this, my that, like, it's the wrong reason. And so the first step in my mind of guest mastery, being a master podcast guest, is really getting the right mindset around the fact that it's not about us. It's about the people that we're going to serve, specifically the one person that day that's going to get impacted by our message. I believe podcasting really is the ultimate way the world is being served through content right now. I mean, it's the only form of media that really captures some undivided attention. It's not super visual. It's not flashy, right? It's somebody who wants to learn something about a specific topic, about somebody's journey, to have their life changed and impacted in a positive way. And I love that. And I think that we have such a huge opportunity to make the world a better place, one person at a time. So I just want to make sure that all of us, like, we're going to learn some cool stuff today. We're going to celebrate this big win of this launching. But what matters most is that we show up to serve that one person who needs us most. And for me, this is kind of just like I'll just be fully transparent. I don't mean to push faith on anybody, but I'm a follower of Jesus. And if I read the Bible, like it's very clear that Jesus showed up to serve, not to be served. And he constantly went out of his way for the one person who needed him. At the very least, whether we share different faith or whatever, we can all agree that's a good person right there, right? And so that's what I've based my life upon. And I just think that if we can master that idea, right, of serving the one person, that what we're doing is totally worth it. So, and as a byproduct, our influence expands, it grows, people talk about us, and that's a really great thing. So anyway, I didn't read any comments during that, but hopefully there was some cool stuff there. So I'm going to bring some people up on stage. I think this webinar software limits the amount of people, so I might have to bring a few speakers up at a time. So I'm going to kind of scroll through here and do that. Also, this is man, I got a lot of new things. Day 3 of coffee, day 5 of using a Mac. Day 5. Like I used PC for 26 years. And just switched over. So I am learning. Let's put it that way. I just let Amy on stage. Hey, Amy, how are you?
Hi, great. This is so exciting, isn't it?
And I'm hearing you through my computer speaker, not through my earbuds. So give me a minute here.
I can't help you with that.
To figure that out real quick here. Welcome. And thanks for being part of this book. So excited about it.
What an honor to be a part of this book. I was like, yes, yes, and yes.
I love that. Let me see if I can hear you through my earbuds. Let's see if that worked.
Okay. Test 1, 2, 3.
Nope. It looks like again, being a new, everyone tells me that Mac is going to be faster than PC was, but learning it has, let's put it this way, I almost threw it through a window when I was like, can you copy paste on one of these? Like, are there hotkeys for that? Instead of Control C, it's Command C. I figured that out. But anyway, I can hear you, just not through here.
Well, I'll talk loud.
Thanks. Appreciate it.
I have a big voice and it's back, so don't worry.
Anyone in the chat, are you all hearing any, like, are you hearing Amy through my mic, like an echo? Is anyone hearing that? Oh, thanks, Andrew. Appreciate it. Not hearing that. You know what? In that case, I am far more comfortable now. No, I don't get to do that very often. Maybe this is the way to do it. Who knows? Amy, I love the fact that you're in this book. Amy is actually, in addition to being an author of this book, she's also a member of PodMatch Elite. So we get to hang out like 3 times a month. Virtually, at least. We haven't met in person yet, but I love that. And Amy has added so much.
Opposite coast.
Yeah, right. Yeah. I'm Jacksonville, Florida, and you are San Diego, right? Yeah.
San Diego.
But you've added so much value to my life with the way that you show up. And I know that your contribution to this book is going to really help a lot of people, just given your experience and stuff like that. Your story is kind of in there, but can you give us just a brief, like, few second example? And then I'm going to ask you a specific question, and I'll kind of bring another speaker up.
Perfect. So the Cliff Note version is that I've had 20 years of a very wonderful, diverse, shifting career that started in wholesale mortgage. Couldn't be more opposite than podcasting as a sales rep, and learning that effective communication really was the key to leveling up in sales, and was successful in that until the industry crashed in 2008, and put my same skills and tools into my passion, which is music, and went out and recorded and toured as a recording artist for all of those years. Through that time of the recession, came back into the business world and combined both careers back in 2011, which opened doors as a TV host, more business development and leading sales teams, public speaking, media coaching, and still performing with a new album out on radio. And here I sit, loving being on podcasts all the time, meeting incredible people, professionals, doing great things, and getting to share my message and help encourage and inspire others, which you said at the opening of this, Alex. If we just reach the 1, I mean, we don't even need to be here now. You nailed it. That's it. We can go.
Good stuff. So the first thing I noticed, well, you mentioned like being a recording artist. This year, you recorded an excellent song. I'm not saying that your previous songs weren't excellent, but like this one, like the YouTube video, everything about it was just amazing. Do you have like a like, can you drop that link to that in the chat? And don't leave everybody, yes, but like copy this link and go listen to the song that Amy did. It's like, it's just beautiful. I think you did such a great job, and I've shared it with so many people. So
Thank you.
So if you don't mind just dropping that in the chat, and everyone kind of copy that for later. Don't leave. Stay here.
I'm not leaving. I'll do it later.
Okay, cool. That's all right, fine. Sweet.
I'm here for the hour and a half. Don't worry.
Cool.
But thank you. It's called What If It All Goes Right? So you can't have a negative mindset with something if it says, what if it all goes right? And this year has been a perfect example of that, leading here today as well.
Love it. Good stuff. So the question I want to ask you, and people can probably already tell that you are extremely well-spoken, like polished, but still feels organic. Because some people, they're like really polished when they talk, but it's like, you can tell they just memorized it. I don't feel that way when I get to hear you talk. And what I want you to share about is like, how have you been able to constantly show up and share from a place of like energy, value, consistency, and strategically sharing the right message, but in a way that like isn't rambling, not fumbling, but also doesn't sound robotic? Like, I know it's a big question, right? But like,
It is a big question. It is. But here's the thing, anything that you want to become great at and say, this is what I want to do, you can't just do it once in a while. If you're an athlete, you can't sit on the couch and eat pizza every day and then go and be in a marathon the next day. You have to train, practice, and do that thing all the time. And so for me, how I articulate, how I speak, I'm the same way at home, my poor family, but I am the same way at home with them as I am being a guest on a podcast, so that what comes out of me is natural and unscripted. Taking that time to know my talking points. What is my message? What are the key points that are important? What do I want people to know? What can be left out? Really fine tuning that and putting the time and the work into fine tuning daily what my message is and how I deliver it. And the rewards are so beautiful when you put that time into doing it. But if you don't take the time to self-evaluate, self-awareness of what your filler words are, what your resting face is doing, how you're representing yourself, then you're going to get thrown maybe in an interview, something throws you off. And the next thing you know, you're scowling, yeah, so, and that's what happens. Continual practice daily of how I articulate.
I love that. And so you mentioned like your family, your poor family, right? Like you using them as like
Yes.
just practice, which I know isn't the case. You have a beautiful family that seems very close. As a matter of fact, your oldest son, right, is your lead
Yes,
guitar player in your band, right? I mean,
he is. He's been playing for me since he was 18. He's 31 now. He's an amazing
that's
musician.
amazing. So cool. I'm blown away that you have a 31-year-old, by the way, like son. That's crazy,
That makes two of us.
right? Yeah, nice. So, but like, does it also require you to get a lot of reps? Like, if I went back and found the first interview by Amy, it's not gonna. And I'm not trying to sound mean, but it's not gonna be as good as what it is today. Like, do you agree with
Oh,
using
completely.
someone's platform, right, as a guest in a way that they're also kind of practice? Like, because it kind of sounds like the first time I was a guest, like I feel bad for that guy who had me as a guest. I mean, he was appreciative, but like I
Yes.
look back, I'm like, man, now I could do better, which I guess you could always look at that. But like, what are your thoughts on using a live platform or a podcast as a platform to also learn?
It's a brilliant way to keep leveling up because, like anything else, you have to go back and watch the tape. You have to review the tape. Again, back to the athletes, they watch the tape, right? That's what creates champions. And so going back and watching and listening to your footage and saying, "Ooh, what resonated with me? If I was a listener that didn't know me, would I have clicked out? Did this make sense? Did it flow?" And it's that constant evaluation. Yes, for me, my first appearances started back when I was touring, doing morning show, TV shows, radio, and that was a big education then of hearing myself, knowing how I represent and fine tuning them. But since this time now of really taking podcasting on in such a big way, it's a blast. I listen to it back. There's so much great content to repurpose. Which sound bites are resonating the best? But if we just do the interview and then toss it to the side and don't ever look at it again, then you're not going to grow. We have to take that time to say, I'm going to watch this and evaluate. It's an investment in ourselves. I mean, I feel like I'm a better human because I can articulate better, let alone being a better podcast guest, better business owner, better mother, wife, all of the things that go with that. But we've got to take that time to do that self evaluation. And so, yes, watching those original interviews are important because if I'm cringing at myself, other people might be cringing as well. So that's where you go, all right, let's take some notes. Let's level up.
All right, I'm about to bring people up. If anyone has a question for Amy, I'll bring you on stage if you want to, or you can just say, I'd rather share it in the chat. Just drop it down there and we can just answer it that way. But if you want to be brought up on stage, just request that in the chat. But go ahead and drop your question in there and we'll bring you up. But before I do that, does anybody who's here attending, is the idea of re-listening to yourself or re-watching yourself on a podcast or a video interview of some sort, does that freak you out at all? Like, is that like scary for you? I just want to hear what people say. Like, are you like, man, I hate listening to myself? Like, is anybody in that boat? I'm just curious. I'm looking at the chat here. Let's see what we got. Will is Will. I know you, man. You're a legend. Initially, yes.
It is the number one most common thing of all the professionals I've worked with, even as a TV host. They hate the sound of their voice and how they look. Very
This
common.
group,
So it's okay, everybody, to be
this
honest.
group is clearly ahead, though. I think people here, and
These are all
yeah,
pros.
and some people are saying the opposite, right? It is scary. I'll share from my perspective real quick. It freaked me out. And still to this day, like when I listen to an interview with me, I listen in a different way, which is probably good because I am evaluating myself. Two things, Amy, and then I'm gonna let someone else ask a question.
Yes.
And Brad, I agree. I'm very self-critical. I'm right there with you. So the two things, one, initially, it's like you have to get over the fear of hearing yourself, right? Like, so you have to grow in confidence is the first thing, but two, also not being overly critical. Did you struggle with either of these things, and how did you kind of come up with a remedy? And I'll share that second point again. For me, it's like, oh man, I said this, I should have said that. Like I break it apart. And I'll be real, I've probably 1 or 2 times ever had an interview. I'm like, that was perfect. But I shouldn't strive for perfection. It's okay to not be perfect.
Right.
So how did you learn, one, to deal with the fact of like, this is going to make me a little bit anxious to hear myself, right? To get comfortable with it. Maybe it's just reps. And two, the other thing, how did you stop being so overly critical of yourself, if that was ever a struggle for you?
Whenever I start to be overly critical and I'm more focused on my vocabulary, I stop and go, no, let's listen to the message again. Did the message land? Was there an emotional connection that took place? If I was an audience listener, would I have had a takeaway from that? And then I can forgive myself if maybe that was a moment that I used some filler words on accident. So I really try to balance back and forth. And if any, like life, we have to forgive ourselves. We have to give ourselves some grace. I have a huge sense of humor. So if I do make mistakes, I crack myself up. And I do enjoy showing that vulnerability. When I was hosting television, I would sometimes mess up the intro on purpose just so that the guest felt comfortable. So we want to show that we're still vulnerable and human, and it happens to me, and I laugh at myself, but then I go back in and evaluate and say, okay, where can I improve? So I think it's a constant balance between the two of going easy on ourselves and yet being honest with ourselves. Finding that middle is hard, but it's worth it.
Love that. So good. All right. So we got some questions here, and then we're going to move on to another speaker because we got a bunch of other ones
Yes.
here. But real quick, and if anyone wants to come on stage to ask these, just mention that. And Alicia, thank you for marking it as a question. I just flagged one as answered by mistake. So Alicia, just keep on giving me, how do I make this come up on the screen instead of saying it was answered? All right. I just have to, it's not going to show up on the screen, unfortunately. But do you have a checklist, formal or informal, of the points you're evaluating when you do your game review, right? So like when you're going back listening to it, like, is there stuff that you're looking at that point? And that, Dixie, that's a great question.
I look and see if I was on point with my messaging. Did I get the sound bites in? Did I interact with the host? Was it a genuine interaction that I'm giving them a lot of grace and thankful for being on their show? Am I staying on point with their topic? Because every show has a different theme, and you want to make sure that you're bringing value to that show and that host. So I listen to make sure, did I bring value to that host? Did I bring value to myself and the message that I want out there? And then I listened to how I articulated, maybe my speed. Was I being a good active listener at the same time I was delivering my message? So those are the really key things that I go back and look for.
Love that.
Great
Good stuff.
question too.
Yeah, good
Thank you.
stuff. Cool. I'm going to let you answer some questions in the chat because we got to move on if we're going to get through everybody here today. And but Amy, thank you for being part of this.
Thank you,
what are your
everyone.
pages? I know it's probably somewhere in here, right? Like, do you know?
I think it's like 100. I think it's in the 100.
Let's see here.
I should know that by heart.
99. It's page
I was
99.
close.
And so
I was
if
only
you're
one
looking
off.
at the book, jump to page 99 to hear more about Amy, and be sure to drop that YouTube link in the chat. And everybody, don't open it
I
in a
will.
different tab. Don't leave, right? So, but Amy, thank you again for being here.
Thank
Really
you,
appreciate
everyone.
you.
Thank you, Alex.
All right, and I know there's some other questions for Amy, so you all can ask there. Michael, what's up? How are you?
I'm great. I don't know how I got on. All of a sudden, I got a message that says you're invited. So here I am.
It's a nice webinar software. That's why I could just bring you up the stage. Listen, Michael, you have been on. There it is. Come on. I love that. What's up?
Yes. Yes. I'm still waiting for the host book to get here.
Sorry about that. That was on me. I think I sent you one of them.
No, that's on Amazon.
Oh, okay, on Amazon. Cool.
Yeah.
We can blame Amazon. I'm good with that.
Yeah.
Michael, you've been on like the PodMatch top 10 for all of eternity, basically. And PodMatch years, you've been there from day one. Can you just tell everybody a little bit about yourself just for a few seconds, and then we'll chat a little bit more. I have some questions for you here.
Awesome. I just want to say, you know, my partner, Tyler Foley, which is on here too, he started on PodMatch about 18 months ago and has never been off the top 10 since.
I know it.
And I think he's been number one about half that time. And then we did a little challenge. I hopped on, and then I got number one really quickly and have been in the top 10 ever since I've been on as well. And I really like what Amy said about this idea of practice and going through everything, and that it's really important to have our talking points ready when we get on the shows. And, you know, every time before I go on a show, I go in and I listen to at least 3 episodes. I make notes about the episodes. I refer to the episodes when I'm on, because I really think it brings something more to the show. It's not just about me and the episode. And like what you said, it's about helping that one person. And I think that that's so important today to stay focused on that. I know I've gotten feedback from listeners that said, hey, that changed my life. I know other guests that have done that too. I know Tyler has that. And if he ever comes on today, he may be able to mention that too. But just briefly, I'm also the author of another book, Falling Down, Getting Up, which was the #1 book. And it's the reason that I really do podcasting, because I believe, like I mentioned, like I heard you mention too, that getting our voice out and helping people is really important. You know, I went from a point at 12 years old having a near fatal water skiing accident, near death experience, suffering debilitating self-doubt and not being able to say anything, to be able to get my message out there, get up on stage, whether it's on stage or on podcast, and really begin to serve and help other people. And that's really why I do this thing. You know, yes, I like to earn money, you know, I need to pay my rent and all that kind of stuff. But I do this bottom line to serve other people, to help people the best I can.
Michael, I love the heart that you have behind this. I think that's how you and I have really connected. And it leads perfectly into the question I have for you anyway. And we're talking about doing this for one person and stuff like that. And so many of us, I think it's a good gesture to want to save or change, not save, I guess, save / change the world, right? Like, do you believe that podcasting really is a good way to do this? And if so, can you just kind of riff on that for a minute? Because I think that if there's one thing I've learned from you, it's this space, and it's helped me articulate it better. But what are your thoughts on this? Like, can you really change the world with podcasts?
Well, I'll try to make a longer story short, and that's part of the beauty of podcasting, or part of what we need to learn how to do. Voices in the world are so important right now, and in our country, we're able to get our voice out. Maybe some people like it, maybe some people don't. But there's so much resistance in the world today about getting voice and message out to the world. And I think it's absolutely vital that we do it. And podcasting has really taken off, you know, and with COVID pushing back and everything. In many ways, COVID, the blessing side of COVID is that, you know, we're doing all this Zooming stuff. We're talking to people all over the world that we used to hop on a plane. Now, I like to hop on a plane and go see people. But think about how many more people have connected because of the blessing of COVID. I'm not trying to say that COVID is a blessing.
Yeah.
But, you know, it's, you know, the Chinese analogy. I can't even think of it now. What is it? You know, with every adversity, there's an equal or greater.
Yeah, I'm not gonna say it as pretty as the proverb, so I'm gonna pass on that. But I know what you're talking about. But like it's said really, really nice. But I get what you're saying. Actually,
that's what I like. I can blank and still be okay.
Right,
for a moment,
exactly.
Right?
You know, something I want to expand on a little bit there is you're talking about like the connectedness of us globally now, which I find one thing really interesting is there's times in my life where I've felt like I'm the only person who struggles with this because my in-person network, although powerful, I'm so thankful for my local friends. None of them really are like, that's not really a thing, dude, right? But when you go to a global standard, like or global standpoint, it's like you might be able to find a couple thousand people that have the same question as you, have the same like viewpoint, or are wondering the same stuff. And that's kind of the beauty of that connectedness that you're right. COVID did kind of bring that, which I'm thankful for that side, and obviously want to be very sensitive with what that time brought. But like you're saying, with any adversity, there is some good that comes out of it. And I firmly believe that with you. Hey, does anybody have any questions for Michael? We'll keep on chatting. If anyone has any questions for Michael, feel free to drop them in there. I'm seeing people talk about where they ended up on the PodMatch leaderboard. I got to like 40 something last month, and I was very proud of myself. And I will not let anyone take that from me. So,
well, we've talked about this, Tyler, that we need to bust out that top 10 and maybe go to top 20 or top.
We're working on that, yeah.
Because like it's the people that Tyler and I work with, we want to take over the top 10. I think at one time we had 7 out of the top 10 guests in there, and like Andrea Pettit, which is also on this call and is also in the book. We work closely with her as well. So it's really great that we have 3 people on the top 10 and in the book, you know, so it's exciting times.
Yeah.
And I think we have an opportunity to, you know, double, triple what PodMatch is doing right now and getting more voices to the world.
Yeah. Good stuff. I tried to invite Tyler up to stage, and Andrea, I can't get you on stage because it looks like you're tuning in from a phone, and I guess it's not letting me do that. But I'm bringing Tyler up real quick
There's
as
a
we're talking about it. But real quick, we have a question. Here we are. What's up, Tyler? Here's a question for you, Michael. From I can't see who it's from. Can you see the question? Where'd it go?
It says,
From
any
Blaine.
call to actions you have used as a guest that got traction for you to build your list and business. I've tested different ones. I've done my book. I have a hidden link for my book that I use on some shows. I don't use it on all. My basic opt-in in my call to action that I use is really more about learning to speak and be a storyteller, which I think is really vital. Just like Amy learning to be a singer, to be in a band. You know, we need to learn to tell stories to get our messages out on podcasts. So it kind of varies. We've tested some different things, and Tyler's tested on his side too as well. So that's a great question. And it's just something that's, you got to test, see what works and see what doesn't work.
Good stuff. I love that. That's a good answer there. And I think it's great to have that unique link. And I think that actually Wade is going to be talking about that in a minute. I'm going to bring him up in a few after Tyler. One more question. This is for both of you. And then Tyler, I'll have you introduce yourself. Someone asked how, I don't remember who it was, but it kind of scrolled past like you're always camera ready, Tyler. So thank you. Appreciate you. Good to go. I love how our backgrounds are pretty similar. I went with blue, you went with gray. They look good though, right? So.
And we stick with the logos. Stick with
That's
the
it,
logos.
right? Other side. I'm still learning this Mac thing. I figured out where the question popped up. I still can't figure out where my hand's gonna go. Like it's always a guess. But anyway, that question, I might have accidentally answered it. I don't know how to do that yet. Like I said, learn the Mac thing. But how many interviews do you do a month to stay in the top 10? I would love to, Tim, that's a great question. I would love to know that as well. So
that's gonna give away all the secrets, and everybody's gonna be in the top 10, then I'm gonna have to try harder. It depends on the month, honestly. I have maintained top 10 with as few as probably 5 or 6. And number one, as long as I'm doing a podcast a day, I'm pretty much number one.
Good to go. What about you, Michael? You got any different opinion there? Or is that kind of, I guess you two work together on this. Maybe that's the formula.
Yeah, I don't have a magic number. I mean, I wish there was a way to say that, well, if you did 20 a month, you're going to be number one. But there's no way, because there's so many other factors with the algorithm. You know, how are we connecting with the host? Are we responding to messages? Are we checking our matches? So all those things are combined in there. So it's not just the number of shows, it's the other factors as well.
You know, my claim to fame is the first 2 weeks that PodMatch was live, I was number one in both guest and host, just so everybody knows. So that is my claim to fame. There was also 4 people on the
record that no one else will hold,
right?
Ever, right, Alex?
Exactly. I was also one of 4 people on the platform. So I appreciate the fact this thing has grown. But Michael, and do you have any final thought here before I move on to Tyler here? I'm going to find your page in the book real quick. But you got anything else you wanted to share real quick? I want to make sure I give you that platform here.
I think it's been shared already, but I want to go back and mention again the importance of, like what I heard you say, Alex, too, is helping that individual, not the individuals, but talking to that single person. And that's, you know, vitally in our marketing, the way that we just do marketing, we're talking to that single person. And just keep coming back to that and really finding the story that resonates, and that finding those shows that resonate with your message. And when you do that, you will accelerate your response and the results that you are getting from the efforts you're putting in.
I love that. Respect it so much, man. You are page 59. So anyone's got the book, check out 59 for Michael Harris. Thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, Alex.
All right. In just a second here, Tyler, let me just do a quick poll here for everybody. So everyone who's here hanging out with us, I'm curious to know who has picked up a copy of the book, and I got a fun poll here. So let's see what people have got here. If you grabbed a copy of PodMatch Guest Mastery yet, you know it. We got a few people on there. Come on. Love it. Haven't purchased yet. I'm excited to see that too. I hope that you decide to. I'm waiting for someone to say no thanks. Like, I figured there's got to be at least one troll here, you know, like someone's got to be like, just nah, I'm out, right? So, or maybe just not for you.
Totally missed my opportunity.
This is your opportunity. I figured you'd be the one to take it.
But I already voted. So
okay. I
it.
strategically brought you on stage so you wouldn't be the guy to do that, by the way, because I just assumed that would happen.
Right.
So, Hey, man. Really appreciate you being here. Appreciate your support of PodMatch since day one when you found it. I think you just started sharing it overnight, and we started just getting these amazing, talented people on both sides of the mic showing up, and you clearly just have a network. And thank you for your support, man. It means so much to me personally, like really does.
Thank you for putting together a platform that I can get behind. I don't put my name behind a lot of stuff, and frankly, and you and I have had this discussion offline, there are a lot of other matching services on there that you can use to find podcasts, and I don't think any of them come even close to what you guys have put together, from a 1,000 different perspectives, from a community perspective, from just even the feedback that you can get, the level of engagement, the gamification on it, the response from customer support, like from all levels. You guys, it's phenomenal.
Thanks, man.
Platform. So of course I'm going to stick my name behind it and tell everybody to get on it.
I appreciate it, man. It means so much. And shout out to Alicia, who's helping moderate the whole thing for us today. She's that support person. She does such a good job. I honestly believe sets the golden standard. Like we all use other softwares for all kinds of things, right? I message them. I'm like, man, I wish they had someone like Alicia who would respond to me in the next 24 hours instead of like a robotic response. Anyway, thank you, Alicia. You're the best. Also, she's my wife, so I'm a little biased, maybe a little bit, but she's great. Tyler, can you just tell us a little bit about yourself, and then I'm gonna jump into a question I have for you here.
Yeah, sure. What can I say? I'm a father, a husband, former child actor, lover of fine chocolate, seeker of warm beaches, author of this #1 best-selling book, and now the co-author of another #1 best-selling book, which I am so super happy to be part of.
Good stuff, man. I love the way you answered that. It's a terrible question to say, tell everyone about yourself a little bit, but I'm with a group of pros, so I'm kind of probing to see how everyone answers it. And so far, everyone's passed. So there wasn't a 20-minute rant of like, well, when I was 5, let me tell you what happened. I'm like, uh-oh, buckle up, everybody. Like.
Cassini said, go back to the beginning. So here we are. At the beginning.
One time I did that, and I said, well, first, I quoted it from a movie. I said, well, first, let me tell you what happened. I woke up. Actually, let me go back even further. First, I was asleep. Then I woke up, right? Taking a story really far back. But no, I really appreciate you once again. So what's the best way that because you've been on a ton of shows. I mean, just unbelievable amounts. I would never even try to compete with it. I love the way you show up every single time. What I want to know is how have you consistently shown up to add value to hosts? Because I believe I've heard almost on every interview you've done, the host's like, we've got to have you come back. And it's like, man, they know that you delivered for their audience so much so that they're willing to say live, right? Or unedited, we've got to have you back. How have you consistently done that when going on so many podcasts without, again, sounding like a robot? Like, how have you done that?
Well, you alluded to it at the beginning. First of all, I know that I'm a guest. And there was a reason you are called a guest. You are being invited to somebody's platform, and it's no different than being invited into somebody's home. So what are the rules? Are you going to a house party? Are you going to a social gathering? Are you going to a one-on-one meet? Like, what is the purpose of you showing up at this person's platform? And having a very clear understanding of that, whether that's having those pre-show interviews or having some kind of input or intake form and answering those questions honestly. I think part of it too is knowing where your wheelhouse is. Don't go on shows where you're not going to be able to show up and provide value. I've had just as many rejections on PodMatch as I've had acceptance, and I have turned down almost as many shows of people reaching out to me, not because I don't think they have a great show, but because I don't know that I'm going to be able to provide value, or the host doesn't feel that I can be able to provide value. But when it matches, hence PodMatch, then you have that ability in that platform to show up and really provide value to that audience, and being very cognizant of what that audience is expecting out of you will provide you the groundwork and the foundation for what you need to say. And then quit being canned. I have yet to prep for a podcast interview in the over 350 that I've done and over 200 on PodMatch where I have had a script laid out ahead of time. The host they may send me a thing that say, these are the 10 questions I'm going to ask you. And I go, okay. I don't pay attention to it.
Yeah.
I wait for them to ask the question because I'm very likely going to take them off on a tangent because that's what I do. And we'll see where it goes from there. But I'm always doing it with what was the value that I promised? Can I deliver it? What can I do to go above and beyond? Whether that's thanking the host, prompting their audience to give them a 5-star review if I've been particularly moved by a really good episode, right? Because that's the problem. We get into these conversations and then everybody forgets to plug their own thing. And I have no problem. They give me an opportunity to plug my thing, right? Tell us where we can connect. And I'm like, as soon as I hear that, if I've enjoyed the show, I'm going to say, yes, I will tell your audience where they can find me, but they're already on your platform. So let's have them help you first and give you a 5-star review. And that's one of the things that I have found kind of ingratiates me into a host, because I've been invited to their house. And a lot of people are actually recording in their house. So I really am being invited into
That's a
their
good
house.
outlook.
So it's like, hey, now that I'm here, let's say thank you and prompt your audience to do a little bit more.
You know, I've listened to an interview. The first time I heard you say, let's leave this host a 5-star rating review, one, I did it, but two, that was the first time I'd ever heard a guest do that. You got invited to their home and you basically left it clean. They're not like, holy cow, this dude freaking messed the place up. No, he made it better, right? I'd never heard anyone else do that. And I'm sure at this point, because you've been on hundreds of podcasts, 350 plus, whatever it is, 400 plus at this point, because you
155 5-star reviews.
There you go. I love it. Because of that, you've probably had some other people that have heard that and been like, I'm going to do that too, which is great. I think it adds a ton of value. So I love that.
I hope I am not the only one doing it. It would honestly crush my heart if I am the only one prompting an audience to leave a host a 5-star review. I think all guests, if you've enjoyed that episode, I think it's almost incumbent on us, as you said, leave the house, leave it cleaner than you found it, leave it better than you were. And that's actually my goal for any show that I'm on, is to leave their audience better than I found them.
That's so good.
And as long as I can do that, if it's even just one takeaway, I've done my job. They had something that provided value. And as long as I'm providing value, and if all the value was, hey, you're listening to this, why? Give them a 5-star review. If you keep coming back, give them a 5-star review.
Yeah, that's so good. I've got a question here, and my friend Jeffrey actually has the same one. So I'm going to click here to show it live real quick. And now I know where this is. Again, first time Mac user here. So I figured out where to, if you even call it Mac, am I saying that right? Or is it Apple? Am I a Mac user? It says MacBook Pro on it. So I don't know. Anyway.
I'm a nerdy PC.
Yeah, I was for 26 years. I'm not sure I love this yet. But anyway, Jeffrey, by the way, thanks for being here. Close friend, amazing host. I don't think any host I've ever met shows up better when sharing their content. Like Jeffrey will never spam links and be like, new episode out, right? Like he doesn't do. Jeffrey's like, here's why I had this guest on. Here's the reason I thought this would be a good conversation. Here's the value I believe it's going to add. And it's why he's a top 100 host, is because Jeffrey shows up in a way that I'm inspired by it. So Jeffrey, thank you. And I love this question because you're organized like me. And this was the same thing I was going to ask, but like you mentioned, Tyler, about like hosts sending out like an outline type of thing. Like, what are your thoughts on having that as something to collaborate? Like basically sending you something. Again, you say you barely look at it, right? Like, and can you share that a little bit? And I have some thoughts too. And if anyone has any other questions, feel free to drop them in chat.
I think that's an excellent thing for the host, because that gives you kind of that framework of what you're going to do. It gives me as a guest an idea of what's coming. I don't prep based on it. I'm not going to memorize answers, because then you're going to get canned responses that don't feel good. And to Amy's point, nobody likes that, right? And even though, and the other thing is too, is it keeps it fresh for me as a guest, because after 350 shows, people are going to ask the same questions over and over again. I'm going to get asked, what was it like being on Freddy versus Jason? I'm going to get asked, is that you on the cover of your book? I am definitely going to get asked, what is it like being a
is
child
that you
actor?
on the cover of the book?
Of course. Look at that definition of that guy is not.
Okay.
No, that is a stock image purchased from Jeff Bezos, who won't allow me to advertise my book on his site, even though I've purchased the image from him because of the image on my book. But that's a rant for another day.
Tyler's not bitter, everybody. Don't worry about it. Sorry, continue. I just had to know.
No,
I had
I'm
to know
not.
the answer to that. And I'm sure everyone else was wondering, right?
But,
so
but by me not like seeing the order of the, like, you know, these are the things that they're going to ask. I can do a little bit of prep. Most of my prep is, as Michael had pointed out, is listening to other people's episodes, getting a feel for what the host style is, and do they like to have banter, or do they want you to talk long? Because that's a thing that I usually am guilty of, is doing the long conversation. So do I need to slow my answers down because this host is a lot more interactive, or is this a host who likes to like drop a question and then park? And so I don't mind the prep sheet. I'm just not going to use it as a Bible to create canned answers, and we cannot deviate from it.
Yeah.
I'm happy if that's what the host does, and we're just going to go through and bang, 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 bang. I'm going to do my best to bring a freshness to that, so that it doesn't sound like that it was scripted. But for me, I'm a guest, so I'm going to do it how they want it. It's their rules. It's their house. Yeah. I'm coming to play in their playground. I will do it their way.
So I'm in full agreement. And to go back to this question, when I first started getting these like outlines from hosts, I would literally type in the way I wanted to answer it. But then I would realize I was answering it like a robot, because like I already planned it. So what I like to do as a guest is I like to look at the questions, and if I say I can answer them on the fly, I don't do it. Now, sometimes I have a super deep question, like go back to the age of 10, think about the most dramatizing experience you had and how would you respond differently today. I'm going to at least put a sentence. Like, I'm not going to write out my whole response anymore. I'm going to put a sentence. So I'm not like, wow, when I was 10, right? Like, so I want to be prepped, because that's a tough question. If they're like, what was one of your greatest achievements? Like, I don't need to prep for that. Like, I should just know it. And as a matter of fact, it's better if I don't. Perfect example of this is when I was,
because obviously it was marrying Alicia.
Obviously, right? Thank you. You know me well. Thank you very much. Anyway, Tyler, I got to find you in this book. We gotta move along here for sake of time. But I could literally, I've told you before, I could talk to you all day. Can't wait for you to start your university, by the way. You got my message about that, right?
Yeah, I got that. It made me smile. Good. You have no idea. I was like, oh, man. Now I have to.
You're going to have to talk to Tyler offline about that, by the
Alex.
way. It's pretty funny. I think it was funny. Page 51. You guys got to check out this book. You got to go to page 51. You've got some real wisdom in here. I was very curious in yours because you've been in the top 10, specifically number 1 more than anybody else. So I was like, how the heck does this guy do it? I hit 41 time, right? So, but Tyler, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for your support. Really appreciate you. All right, man, move you off stage. And Wade, thank you for being here. I know
Tyler, by the way, that was me on the cover of your book, buddy. Just so you know.
I love that. Jason, I'm going to answer this real quick. I noticed that you mentioned, oh man, I accidentally marked it as answered again. Sorry guys, I'm still getting used to this, but you just asked a question, struggling to get reviews from guests. Is there a tip you have? If you're using PodMatch, we prompt them at the end to leave a review, but also just have some sort of ask. Additionally, this is like my first time ever mentioning this, but we just launched Pod Lottery. It's like soft launch right now. Alicia, you can drop the link to that. If you have an iPhone, we made it really easy to get a lot of reviews. As a matter of fact, somebody I know just happened by chance to win 62 reviews on there yesterday alone, which I was like, hitting the jackpot is crazy. But anyway, psyched about that. Cool. Wade, mostly famous for being on the cover of Tyler's book. You also do some other things.
Yes. I was ashamed about it before I could admit it, and now I've just embraced it. By the way, for those of y'all, if you're about to come on as speakers, I actually jumped on. Sorry, Tyler, didn't mean to steal your thunder. It just said, go on, and it's like, oh no, go on. And I was like, boom, I'm here. And I'm like, oh, I'm here.
Yeah, that was me.
I didn't really mean to jump on that.
I used to not do that. I used to like bring people up one at a time, but then there was this like weird lag time. So I just started like stacking a little bit, right? So I brought you on stage. Tyler is offended, but you guys can deal with that later. But
that's okay,
hey, everybody, wait.
He's offended. He's jealous, and he's jealous of the way I look on the cover of his book. You know, we'll have to talk. I'll have him on my show. We'll have to talk about it.
Wade, you're somebody that right when I announced that I was going to launch PodMatch, you reached out to me. You're like, hey, let's get on a call. And at that point, I can remember I was like, I'll talk to anybody right now because I have no freaking clue what I'm doing, right? Like I came from an aerospace background. I'm like, I don't know what this is. And you just had super accomplished in the space of software and understanding it really well, but also just full of wisdom. And I'll never forget it. You gave me like an hour and a half of your time. And I was like, can I pay you? You're like, no. Here's what I want to give to you. And it really helped propel me to where I am today. So I want to say thank you for your continued friendship. You've always been a brother to me. And anytime we get to hang out in person, which I love because we're both Florida people, it's just been amazing. So thank you for who you are, man. I really, really appreciate you.
Absolutely, man. And I didn't want any money because you didn't have any money then. Now I want you to pay me.
True.
No, I'm
I keep on getting that reoccurring invoice. It says past due. That's funny.
exactly. Yeah.
Man, I am so excited to have you as part of this book. Can you just quickly share, like, you're a podcast guest and host, so can you just quickly share, just briefly, kind of your experience in this space? And then I have a really pointed question for you that I want to ask, because you kind of, again, being like a data person and stuff, I want to talk to you about that side of things.
Sure. For me, gosh, I felt weird writing the guest one because I've guested less than I've hosted, but I very much know what I want in a guest and I try to be that. And which by the way, I was a little late because I was on a guest with Beate on my show just before
nice.
this. So that's my late pass. We were literally recording like, oh gosh, we got to hurry up and get on over there. I just do my best to give. And you guys have attracted such an awesome community of people. It's sometimes when you give to people, it's difficult because you're like, oh geez, I'm going to give. And then people are just primarily takers. Most of the people I've met in here are givers, the hosts and the guests. And it really just feels feels great. Whether you even make money directly, I don't pretend to understand how the universe works. It's worked out for me so well, pretty well so far. So I just think it's great to be able to share and give and do different really cool things and help people. And so for me as the guest, some of the stuff that Tyler just mentioned, in fact, Beate just done that to me. She's like, in the middle of the episode, first person's ever done it with like, hey, you need to leave a 5-star review for Wade's guests or for Wade's show. It's like, that's awesome. And so, yeah, I just keep learning. I learned a lot from Daniel's contribution to the book and having him on my show, Daniel Alphone, and how he approached the interview. So I'm still learning this stuff, and actually have read the book cover to cover the first day I got it, and I'm still learning a lot. But basically, just do the best I can to be just really, really flipping good to people. Not so much cool, like cachet cool, but just give to people.
Yeah.
I don't know.
That's been the common theme today, man. So I appreciate you sharing that. You ready for a really pointed question? Because I think I can ask you a question like this. So
Absolutely.
Not going to catch you off guard here, I don't think, but I want to talk about guesting ROI, return on investment. So how can you increase, or how have you been able to increase your guesting return on investment while sharing your passion and doing so on smaller shows, right? Like, because let's face it, like most of the shows that we all get on, they are smaller when you compare them to the top 100 of like the celebrity style. Like, how have you been able to, one, track that ROI, but also increase it? Again, while still sharing passion, not feeling like you're wasting any time or anything like that. Easy question.
Sure. So
for you
couple.
There, right?
Oh no problem. Well, a couple things, and again, I really do. I happen to believe in God. I'm not selling. I definitely believe in karma. I love this. There's an interview with Taylor Swift. They asked her one time, what did she learn in her whole career? She's like, karma is real. She didn't even say God's real. She's like, karma is real. And I don't think she's trying to be an atheist. She's just like you might or might not even believe in God, but stuff comes around. And so to me, number one, I do my best not to get caught up on that. Although I look at my stats a lot as a host. So I'm trying to learn from you to not do as much of looking at my stats. But in general, the main thing I've just tried to do is say, okay, what would get somebody to share my stuff? I mean, at the end of the day, if you get more exposures, you get more people looking at your stuff, that helps. In my case, I'm a B2B person, so LinkedIn's a huge platform for me. So as much as I can share on LinkedIn and tag people, can thank them for being on their show. I don't understand why some people won't share, audiograms or videos that people create of their show. I'm like, I don't get it. I'm trying to promote you. And oh my God, you might have to hit like or subscribe or God forbid, share, the video assets I've created for you. But so for me, I'll try to encourage the host to do video assets, or I'll do video assets. I'll create the video assets if they don't sometimes, if there's really good things. Because after a while being a host and just going like this, on my video clips, people are like, hey, wait, do you have anything good to say? I'm like, yeah, well, when I'm a guest, I actually get to say stuff and share that clip. So I do that. Definitely exploring affiliate partner opportunities with people. And not in any huge way. Affiliates, to me, is a very interesting thing. Sometimes I actually just prefer saying, hey, look, go work with so-and-so because they're good. No, I don't get a piece of it, because sometimes then people are like, well, are you getting a piece of this? Well, yes, no, maybe. Usually for me, I don't care if a person just sends me business or I send them business, or we just support each other or whatnot. But sending people to people, trying to send good guests to people. If you say, hey, this person will be a great guest for you, definitely staying in touch with people, supporting their posts. Gosh, I recently had shared something with my guests and the people who've been hosts, and some from PodMatch, some from just the outer world. And it was still kind of crazy that I only got 50% of the people to respond. And I'm not sure if they were busy, if the email went somewhere. I'm like, gosh, I'm trying to keep doing stuff to help you. And again, some people get it, some people don't, but that's also where, for me, I start narrowing down who's really the people that I want to build. Because to me, the main reason I guessed is I want to help people grow their brands, and I want to be partnering and working with them 5 to 10 to 15 to 20 years
Right.
from now. So for me, the short term is a detail, and then give generously of your content. So whenever I'm a guest on somebody's show, my $5,000 coaching program, I invite them to be part of that. I don't charge for that. It doesn't make me a better person. I can afford to do that. It's a scaled thing. It's not private coaching. That would be different. But I want to bring people in. It allows me to get intelligent people looking at my stuff again. And it also, and this isn't meant to be hardcore, but people who, when you offer people to share some of your best stuff and they just don't even flip and respond, it also makes it feel like, I guess we're done then.
Right.
And not in any huge way, but it makes it clear for me of where do I invest my time and who do I really pursue supporting and who I don't. So,
Man,
so yeah, because for me, time is a huge
I think
thing.
that that's so important. The fact is, like, and you're good at this. Like, you're a relational guy. Again, calling me, if I would have never done anything that you recommended or stayed in touch, I would have been one of those people. You're like, cool, he's a connection, but that's it, right? But the fact is, we've constantly built that relationship. And now, if I'm going to recommend anybody that does the stuff that you do, and grab a copy of the book, let me find your page real quick.
It is page 66,
look at that. You're
67.
67. You're good to go.
Yes.
Cool.
I'll say 67. 66 freaks out
Yeah.
some people. So I'm,
I mean,
page
I'm a Star
67.
Wars fan, so anything with the number 66 in it, I like to think I'm a Jedi as well. So it freaks me out. But to my point,
There you go.
you've just done a good job of being the person that someone like me recommends for your craft because you've stayed in touch. And I love the fact that you just take a really organic approach to saying, okay, is this person liking this? Are they sharing this on either side of the mic, right? And like, you show up and always do that. Like when I had you as part of what I was doing, like, you shared it more than basically anyone else, which for me is like, cool, Wade will come back, right? Like, clearly come back because he obviously appreciated the fact that I put some work into this. And I appreciate that about you. And I love the organic approach to this because I think that sometimes what's missing, because some hosts like me, we automate a lot of this process. So like, I've learned from you to go back and actually look, not to judge somebody, but in a way to see, okay, is this person really someone I want to continue the relationship with because they're showing that they're interested as well, right? It's the same thing in like real life, if you will. If you're always calling and texting somebody, but you stop for a week or a month or a year and you never hear back from them, right? Like, maybe it's time to let that relationship go because it's clearly somewhat one-sided. And I think that you've probably done the best at figuring out which ones this is a give and take relationship on both sides. It's how you end up on stages. It's how you've grown your business. It's how you've grown your podcast, your guesting. It's because you show up consistently that way, man. I really love that you shared that today. I think that's an important point for all of us to sit back and think about. And one more follow-up question here, because we might have some other questions, but I do have to be respectful of your time because I know you're about to jump to something. How do you keep up with this? I know you're an Excel guy, so I'm guessing you have some sort of spreadsheet that kind of helps you know to go back and check these things. Is that right?
So I first was doing it with Excel. I'm now doing it on Podcast SOP.
Look at you.
I'm doing it with my hosts and as a guest. So I'm using Podcast SOP as a guest. Did I send them a book? Did I follow up? Did I? Yeah.
Can you?
Yeah. Oh,
Can you?
Oh, yeah,
Can you
I
do like
see
a
you.
video?
I see
I Podcast SOP is my
Sure.
favorite thing on the planet. Just so you know, like, you and I organize guys.
Yeah.
I want to know how you're doing that. Like, if you would just. Anyway,
Yeah.
I know.
Well, that's the thing. If you want, like, to me, that would be like the gold is what exactly is the sequence. Like, I would love to know of all the different people that did this book, what's their sequence? Because that's flipping gold, because so many people are not willing to do it, but there's a lot of people that are willing to do it, but they don't know what to do. So to me, to be able to, and there's certain follow-up things that I've done. And again, I didn't suggest people 2 things I've learned from guesting. Number 1, don't take stuff personally. Everybody's busy at different levels. So, and because sometimes you're not as busy and somebody's really busy and they haven't responded back to you. And sometimes it's vice versa. So when I talk, somebody hasn't responded to me, I'm talking like a 6-month, 12-month period, not like I just texted them or I just sent them something. Why didn't they respond to me, within 2 or 3 days? And then the second thing is just the people that you're looking to serve. There's so many people that they just want to know that you're connecting with them. There you are. Thank you, Andrea, so much for your feedback on the stuff yesterday on LinkedIn, that they're connecting with you. And the people who are really, you won't even have to, I don't have to look to my list to follow up. They're following up. They just connect with me. But yeah, so I'm using Podcast SOP. I still use but I'm weaning myself off of Excel with my VA's help, and I'm using SOP so that I can send the text to her. And then also just so, because as much as I love the prettiness of pretty spreadsheets and stuff, it's the SOP makes it, I just want to look at it and know I'm
Right.
done or I'm caught up.
Yeah.
And it's brilliant for that. So yeah, so having a guest track for that, I think will eventually be something could be pretty awesome.
That's cool. And Mario, what is up? Love this guy. Mario's a legend in the space. Wondering for, well, we kind of already talked about this, but wait, you got to like do a video posted on YouTube or something so we can kind of see how you're doing it, if you're open to that, of course. So
I will put my recipe
sweet,
on there.
good to know. Cool. Hey, man, thank you so much for being here. I know you got to run. Thank you for making the time for us. Really appreciate
Absolutely.
you, Wade. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, good stuff. Andrea, hi. How are you?
Hi, Alex. Do you hear me well?
I do. Does everyone else? Well, let's see what we got in the chat
Okay.
here real quick. See what we got here. Cool. Vinny, what's up? I didn't realize Vinny was in here. Good stuff. Okay, here they all come. Hey, thank you for being part of this. I really, really appreciate you. And is it 7 o'clock your time now? 6 o'clock?
No, so I'm in Toronto, so it's 2 p.m. EST.
Oh, wait, I'm so sorry. I don't know why earlier I thought you were somewhere else. I thought you showed a totally different time. Someone else, maybe there's someone saying Andrea in here because I was like, that's weird because I knew we were in like anyway, I was like, where are you at in the world? But anyway, cool. Hey, so thank you for being part of this. I really appreciate it. You're like, you're a personal individual. I like that. Like anytime I've had a conversation with you, it feels so like we're just sitting in a room together, having coffee, and I really respect that about you. So I have a really pointed question that I don't think will catch you off guard, but it might catch someone else off guard because it's a big question. Before I do that, real quick, can you just talk about your podcasting experience and what led you to be part of this? Because I'm super excited to share this.
Oh my God. So I think today it's about a year since I met Tyler, and I met Tyler right when I wanted to go on stage. I was ready to be a speaker on stages, and I just asked, show me where. And there he was, thanks to Roy McCaughlin, which we all know. He's a podcast called the 5 Podcast. And once I got to Tyler, everything became amazing. It took me some months before I really wanted to be a podcaster, but once I did it, thanks to him and Michael, oh my gosh. So I am grateful for the first host who allowed me to share my message. Thanks to her, I felt I have a friend. And I knew that this community is a community of friends who, just like Tyler always says, nobody wants to fail. Everybody wants to succeed. So I felt loved, appreciated, cared for by every single host that brought me into their show. I got friends for life. Like, when Wade said about long term, and same with Tyler, everybody else says the same thing. I have friends for life in every single one of the hosts, and having reflections from them, having questions that I never asked myself, and getting things out of me and really seeing what I got that I couldn't see before really helped me to become who I am today. Like really, podcasting has been a huge launch pad, if this is the word, for me in my journey as a visionary leader, as a messenger in the world.
Wow. The question I was going to ask you is, how has podcasting impacted you on a personal level? And I'll ask a different question because you kind of already answered that, but how do you feel that it's helped your mission in the world? Because obviously for you, it's helped that side of things, but how do you feel like it's furthered your vision for what you see happening in the world, at least the sphere of influence you've been able to impact? Does that question make sense? I'm just trying to take it a step further than even just the personal. Again, I think you're ready for a question like this, but most people will be like, including me, I'd be like, what? How do I answer that?
Well, as a thought leader, I had 3 things happening to me while doing this. First of all, I was able to see what's my intellectual property, what are my ideas, what's really my message in the world, because I was at the beginning of my business. I didn't even know my gifts. I was still learning about why am I here? Why am I doing this? I have a big why always. I want to have big impact, but the details were not there. So every single interview helped me. The second thing is that I got feedback, and I learned how my message was impacting others as I was speaking, because I was looking at each host and I saw their smiles, or they were touched, or they were wondering, or so then I knew, just like Amy said, I got feedback as I was speaking. Oh, did I make my point? Oh, was I bringing emotion? Did my story really landed with the other person? And by the way, as I was speaking, I was trying to shift my story and the way I speak in a way that I feel that it is complete, that I leave the host as a friend really into a good mood, even if my story took them into, wavy lines. And the other thing is friendships for life and collaborators. I think, like Wade said, I had a good experience with many hosts, actually 99% of them. And I recommended other people inside PodMatch and outside PodMatch to each other. So not only I built great connections and friendships, but I shared, because I'm a trustworthy person. I built the trust with all my friends. Then I shared because they have done the same with me. When everybody goes somewhere else and they're like, oh, Andrea would be a great guest for you. So this amazing community and loop and circle and spiral was really so good for me. And it really pulled me out of being an unknown and just somebody who would share video clips here, there on Facebook, into being a renowned and welcomed and appreciated guest and speaker. And now, thanks to you guys, this is a dream come true, Alex. I told you, this is the first book I'm in as an author, and it has been my dream. And you made it come through less than a year after I became #1 on PodMatch. So,
amazing! Wow, this is my first book too, and I don't know if we've hit bestseller status.
I
think we have. But mic drop. I mean, that was beautiful. I mean, people were saying that in the chat too. Like, thank you for sharing that. Just amazing. I love the way you show up. And somebody here I think it was Tanya and Michael who said, leave his friends. It's already gone, but I think that's what it said. Something along those lines. And it's so true. If there's a way I could describe you, you leave his friends with somebody. And you're not the guest that somebody forgets. And I like that a lot. And you don't forget them either. And I just think there's a reason that you're one of the 16 authors in this book, right? Like, there was probably hundreds of people who would have liked to have been in it, but you're one of 16 because of the reason of you're friends with all of us. And I think that we can all learn from that. So I love that.
If I can add to what you said to others, this is not bragging. This is appreciating myself and showing everyone what's possible. I've been invited mostly, I think, to all of them twice.
Good.
When they heard that I didn't know about PodMatch. I'm writing my own memoir. So I will have 3 books in a year. This one is the first. And I was invited again when my next book is launching. So, it's amazing. Like, people said, I want you back right now. And like, even during the recording, we want you back. And I'm like, yes, I did it.
I love that. Congrats. And again, we talked about it with Tyler, like that says a lot about a guest, because I've had some people on my show, and I'm not going to say those words because I don't want anyone to think they're coming back, like, and not be rude. I'm like, wow, this was a lot on me. But I know we're short on time here. Let's see your page real quick. Where are you at in the book?
26.
You knew right off the top of your head.
26.
I gotta fact check that real quick. I got 27. This is probably a later revision.
Okay.
So maybe a later revision.
Okay. No. It's
27,
okay,
and this is the most current one. So if someone gets off Amazon, this is where they're going to be. I think you're 26 in the pre-release. But Andrea, thank you so much for just your friendship, for being here. It really means a lot. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good stuff. All right. Real quick here, Tanya, Michael, what's going on? I'm gonna answer a question real quick that came up. It is Audrey. Do you like being asked standard fun questions for all the guests, right? So basically asking about favorite book, movie, music, that type of thing, right? What I like, Audrey, is for this to be curated toward that guest. An example, I'm not like some people, they come on and I've heard them answer like kind of those standard questions, but they don't like movies or they don't read books. So their question, the way they answer is kind of like lame, right? It's better for you, the host, to come up with some of those easy questions they can answer that are interesting based off what they actually love, right? And then for the listener, it makes it unique. It's not like, okay, they're going to ask about favorite movie, favorite book, favorite place to eat, right? Like, because they ask those questions every time. Instead, it's like, hey, I noticed you like soccer. Do you have a favorite soccer team? Or, hey, I noticed you like doing this. Do you have a favorite, I don't know, TV show? Or like, there's better examples. But I like the idea of slightly curating it to the specific guest. But yeah, giving those fun answers is cool. Recently, I went on a show, and I've never been asked this before, but like, if you're a superhero, who would you be? That was an easy question, and I'm kind of like a little bit of a nerd, comic books growing up type of thing, right? Like, so for me, I was like, yes, I want to answer this question. I want to talk about it for a second. So that's my thought on that for what it's worth. Tanya, Michael, hello. How are y'all? Oh, I can hardly hear you all. Make sure if you go up to the top right, like right next to the chat, there's settings. And you can change the microphone when you click that settings thing, like the gear icon drop down. Let's see. Volume is low. Let's see what y'all got. Can barely hear you all.
I'm clicking on it, but it's not
Wonder if I can change it. Let me try this real quick. Here we go. Trying to use
hardware on my system preferences.
Yeah, I can't change it on my end. We're gonna give you all a minute to figure it out. Keep on chatting. We're gonna leave you on stage, but I'm gonna bring up. I saw Chris Williams in here, but yeah, you all just interrupt us. Chris is an easy guy to interrupt, isn't he? He's so much fun. I mean that in a nice way, by the way. So we'll let you know when we can hear you all as y'all are trying it. What's up, Chris?
Dude, I can't freaking believe I'm in this book. Like, thank you so much for, I mean, you sent me the link. I got 20 copies. I've sent it to all my friends. Dude, I'm everywhere. I can't believe it.
Did not expect that at all. Oh my gosh.
This one's pretty good too. I have to admit, I like this.
I like this one. That was so funny, dude. That is great. I'm glad we got this recording. I'm going to strip that little part of it and share that tomorrow. That is amazing. Oh man. So are you Waldo?
No, that's the worst part about it. And like every one of these, I'm the idiot. There's always on every page like some idiot who's totally getting blasted by a fire hose, falling in a sand pit, getting sucked into an engine by an airplane. I'm pretty sure those outfits all match me. That's what it's kind of insulting.
Oh man.
Maybe on the next revision.
We might give you a more lead role if you know what I'm saying. So, dude, Chris, what is going on, man? How are you?
It's great to be here. All the people who've spoken before me and everybody that I've read so far in this book, you guys are all amazing. Like, oh my gosh. Thank y'all for putting such like solid content here because it's actually usable. Like, that's really cool. Well done.
Thanks, man. And I appreciate you being part of it. Just so everyone knows, I'm in Chris's mastermind. Fun fact, he's also in mine, which is apparently like the most rare thing ever to have Chris in a mastermind, but I am very thankful for that. Dude, it's been great just being friends. We got to meet in person over summer at a conference and hang out for a few days. I slept in those days and then went to the conference. This dude woke up at like 5 a.m. every morning, went for a run, went and did burpees, ate a super healthy smoothie and something else that makes you taller, apparently. And yeah, so like that's the type of guy that he is. Just shows up with this level of energy everywhere he's at, even early in the morning when the rest of us are like, don't talk to me, don't look at me, and don't ask me a question, right? Like,
caffeine pills,
there it
buddy.
is. There it is.
Caffeine
over
pills,
the
my
counter.
friend.
Definitely over the counter. Hey, real quick here. I haven't done this yet. There were some people who had not grabbed a copy of the book. If you haven't yet, here it is. This is a quick link for it. It looks like 7 people said they haven't done it yet. And one person said I need the link to buy it. So that is for you. One person clicked it. Hopefully that's the person who needed the link on the poll. So excited about that. Chris, real quick, I know you have like a really, you do a good job when I ask you this question. Tell us about yourself.
I teach experts how to build masterminds. It's super simple.
Beautiful.
And that's what I talk about in this book. My chapter is chapter 5, page 43. And I'm not a numerologist. I don't really care much about numbers. But you know what's interesting is number 43, I Googled it a second ago, is like all about being a master in something. And 5 is like freedom and overcoming things and like figuring out a new way to do something and finding out a new way to like grow who you are. And that's what's so cool about everybody in this book. And what we get to talk about all the time in our mastermind, Alex, is just like, how do you actually scale and grow who you are in a profitable way? So I guess if I could just say one thing about the coolness that's in this book, one more thing here, Alex, there is so much here, so much good content. It's in my chapter, it's in everybody else's chapter on like how to actually use the tool that you've built with PodMatch and PodPros. Like, I don't know if you guys all realize this, but Alex has created, and his team, Alicia, like obviously, I mean, let's just be honest. Why is she not on camera? I mean,
it's always her choice. I always give her the choice. And I convinced her one time and she's like, when we were done, she goes, never ask me to do that again. I was like, deal, whatever you want. So Alicia, if you'd like to come on stage, just say the word and you are on right now. And she always looks great. She'd be camera ready right now, but she doesn't want to do it.
I
Oh,
know,
thank you. There
Alicia.
it is.
I know you're there. I know you're there right now. And Alicia, you guys, like Alex, Alicia, the rest of the team, y'all have built a truly amazing
you.
tool. You've made it all so easy for us to connect to the right people, and for us to be host and guest, and do it in an amazing way. And you've simplified something that for most of us has been pretty complicated for
Yeah.
a while. So, thanks,
For
guys.
sure, man. Thank you, bro. I appreciate that. Hey, I got a question for you that's a little bit different because you talked about how like everyone in this book is talking about how to use PodMatch, right? How to be a better guest. Which actually a lot of the stuff that I read through this is like universally just good as a podcast guest, most of it, but also they tie in like how to use it properly. You have a slightly different approach on a certain element that I want to talk about, and you spoke about this at one of our quarterly events. But I want to talk to you about like how do you use podcast guesting as a lead generator or lead source for high ticket coaching? Because let's just be real, man. Like you said, your bio, like you teach people how to build masterminds. One, masterminds aren't cheap when you have one. They shouldn't be. But two, teaching people how to build masterminds is not like a, hey, there's $100 product. Like it's not like that. And that's okay. But how have you used podcasting to be able to drive this and build this? I'd love to hear a little bit about that.
Yeah, and it's really simple, and all of you have access to this. So what they've done at PodMatch for us is they've built another social media platform. I hate to dirty it with that word, but let's just call it what it is. It's a place for all of us to hang out, have conversations, and do cool stuff and share stories. It is what it is. And everybody on there labels who they are. So you can go on PodMatch right now and you can search in the search bar for your not ideal audience or ideal place to be a host or guest. You can search for your ideal client. Don't tell anybody that, but it's true. And you can then direct message them. And you're not just like DMing them to sell them something. Like DM people and say, like if it's for real, what I teach, for instance, I teach people how to build high ticket masterminds and group coaching programs. If that's helpful to you and your audience, then I'd love to help with that, right? Like how can I help your audience? The cool thing is most of you have products or services that are going to be helpful to someone's audience and helpful to the host that you're reaching out to. So reach out to them and offer your help. And it's so simple and authentic to say, can I help your audience? Then you're on their show. And then you have another conversation if it's relevant and you want to work with them. Don't do it in a weird, creepy way. Like, please be authentic or else Alex will shut me out. Be real. And everybody, I mean, you just see so many people that are in this book and on PodMatch that are just so freaking real. And that's the cool thing about this community. It's authentic, it's real. And if people need your help, offer them your help.
I love it, man. Hey, I'm putting a link in the chat for everybody. Make sure you open it in another window so you don't leave our event here. But this is actually the topic that Chris talked about the last PodPros quarterly. And I've sent it to a lot of people, and literally the response every time is like, wow, my mind is blown. Like, never thought about it from that perspective. And I'll be real, I didn't either. When you sent me that, like you submitted that, I was like, man, maybe I've been doing this thing all wrong. You know, like, hold on a minute. Like, but I like the commonalities. You show up to add value to that one listener who needs it. The bonus is the host is like, thank you for that. Man, I've always wanted to start a mastermind. And you've already like pre-vetted that person saying, yeah, the host could potentially be a client as well, right? Like, it's beautiful. So check that out, everybody. Yeah. I think that's really good. We got a question from Tanya and Michael here. And I'm going to hit answer live. And Chris, if you see it, call it out because I don't see it yet. And I'm not going to hit finish answering.
Yeah, is this yeah? So we have problems setting up this platform to accept our microphone.
Oh,
first time
this
ever.
One of those.
This is a good question. I actually changed my computer preferences too.
Sorry, this is not. I didn't even read the question here, but go into your sound. Mike is saying, or Tyler, go into your sound settings, your PC, make whatever. I'm gonna let you all figure that out. We're not going to dive too deep into that, but anyway, sorry. Hopefully we can figure that out. I know it's got a little bit of weird settings here sometimes, but we don't have a ton of time. So I'm going to kind of run through it here. So hopefully we can kind of figure that out here. But
they're pros. We know them well. They're in your elite group too.
Tanya and Michael they're legends. Next time we meet, I'm not trying to get everyone else out of here, but next time we meet as an elite, I have a really funny thing I learned about all of us in the group that we have in common. Anyway, I'll share that privately in the group because it's really funny. I think so, at least. But anyway, yeah, Tanya and Michael, try jumping off and coming back in. Your page again is
page 43,
which I love that you looked up the numbers and the meaning. I think that that's fantastic, man.
It's the first time I've ever done that. Okay, if everybody wants to, I'll leave you with this.
I was about to ask you that. Go ahead.
Okay, pick a number that's meaningful in your life. This is the first time I ever looked at my numbers. I just don't care about that stuff. Look up some number that's meaningful to you. Okay, Alex, look up 7. Google it. Number 7 meaning. it will encourage you, because no matter what you type in there, there's all these sites that just say awesome things about you, no matter what number you are. So just type it in there, be encouraged, go on your
I
way.
love it. Another bonus, go to Urban Dictionary and type in your name and see what some of the results say. Please note, not safe for work. It will be highly inappropriate. Most of the time, it's super funny. If you don't like the first one, scroll past. Just your first name, type in your first name, and it makes me laugh. I think it's a fun thing to do. So go to urbandictionary.com and type it in, and then also check out your number as well. Hopefully no one gets like, you're like, my number is 8, and it's like 8 is for losers. You know, like I'm sure it's not going to end up being that. But good stuff, man. Do you have any final words of wisdom before we get out of here?
I got to get back to my book, dude. I got a lot of pages to go through. So you got a lot of guests to talk to as well. Y'all have an awesome day. So cool to see everybody. Congrats on this awesome book, everyone. Everybody just did a killer job.
Thanks, bro. I appreciate you, man. Catch up with you soon. Chris Williams, everybody. A lot of fun, and clearly looking to level up when it comes to Where's Waldo. Hopefully we can all put in a good word. I don't even know who owns that. I'll bring up my buddy Vinny here. What's up, Vinny?
Yo.
Look at that. Everything works for you.
Hello.
There we go. Jason said, just looked up the name in Urban Dictionary. If there's a lot of profanity, don't share that. But
I
it's
know
always
my
a fun thing to do.
my Urban Dictionary is like, I got a guy named Vinny.
It's
It's always like, I got a guy.
I got a guy named Vinny. That's good, man. I like that. Oh, good stuff. Vinny, welcome. So glad you're here.
Yo, what an exciting day. My first time ever
we go.
being published with my own, like, this is cool. Thank you for making this happen and letting me be a part of it. This is awesome.
Oh, of course. I'm so excited about it. And you were the first, like the day we posted it, you already had a picture with another author who is like, not saying we're not all like big time, right? But like when I went over to her page, I was like, oh shoot, like you can type in Google and she's like basically first name basis over there. Like, who the heck is this person? That was really cool to see. Yeah, like clearly you had the opportunity to like have an interview with somebody, both being authors, and you guys were holding your books in the picture. That was really cool to see. I really like that.
Here's a little, her podcast is Law of Attraction. Natasha and I actually sat down last week with Ja Rule. So he's touched the book also. So
amazing.
You're in good company. We're getting the word spread.
That's so cool. Good stuff. Vinny, can you just quickly share a little bit about yourself, and then I'll have a question for you afterwards. But if anyone has a question for Vinny, feel free to ask. But yeah, just a quick little bit about yourself so everyone knows who you are.
Sure. Well, what's going on, y'all? I'm Vinny Potestivo, originally from Staten Island here in Brooklyn. I call myself a creator economist because I have been working with modern storytellers since the late 90s, first at MTV for about 10 years, then at Bravo and A&E, CBS, NBC, and a bunch of media properties for the next 10. And now here I am on this independent side of media, helping business owners and brands claim IP that they own that changes their lives, their stories, their outcomes. And I help people stand out. I help them get discovered, and I help them become more discoverable. That's like the way to say it.
Yeah. Okay. So I got a question for you. That I love the way you show up on either side of the mic. You have a really cool podcast, but you're also like you're an interesting guest. Your stories are very unique given your background. Like you just have insights into a world that the rest of us have watched on TV, right? Like, and you've actually seen behind the veil of those things. But something that you do really well is you leverage tools that podcasters, guests, and hosts don't leverage normally. An example, IMDb. Like I've always assumed that's for movies and TV. And I go there, I type in your name, and you've got all your podcast stuff, not just your TV and movie stuff. Like it's really interesting. Can you talk about like how you've discovered or some things that you'd recommend us as guests to go check out and do that just isn't the common path? I'd love to hear some ideas.
Free, no cost, out of the gate. We launch a podcast, things that that are available to us that we might not know. First off, the power of credits. And it's, to be honest, it's not even getting your first EP credit or getting a host credit or getting a himself or a herself or a themself credit when you appear as yourself. It's giving credit to your team, to your digital team. It's also creating a data point between you and the action that it takes to create this podcast. So let me backstep. On IMDb, the Internet Movie Database, it allows you, the same way as television shows and films are allowed to be seen in terms of credits, right? We want to know how much does it cost? What's the impact? Who made it? Who are the guests? What awards have they won? And as podcasters, we now qualify to have our intellectual property on probably the LinkedIn of the creator economy. If LinkedIn isn't the LinkedIn of the creator economy yet, like the IMDb is a place where I can get lawyers, bakers, florists. I can get people who don't necessarily identify as creatives proper credit that helps them get discovered for local news shows, that helps them get discovered when people are looking for experts who can speak in a certain category. Because now podcasting fractures the economy. Yes, there is a podcast economy, and that's exciting. For the podcast economy, by the way, we also qualify for awards. And some awards we have to pay for. Emmys, you have to pay for a nomination for the thank you for my consideration. You know what that means? Thanks for the moolah la.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, that's exactly
The more
what
I
that
learn,
means.
the
Thanks for the
more
check.
skeptical I am. But
and some awards, some people are actually turned off that you have to pay for awards. It's a pretty standard thing, and it helps with the influx of awards, and it helps gate maybe the quality of it. And then also there are economic barriers to those financial gates. So those same platforms figured that out and also have earmarked opportunities for a way to include certain voices and creators that wouldn't be there. So awards are a great way to stand out. We get them at work, right? Best sales. In school, we get perfect attendance. In your 20s, if you're a bachelor, if you're single, you get like Bachelor of the Year. So these awards are just ways to stand out. And there are some fun, meaningful, deeply rooted awards in culture. And there are awards in our expertise. And it's just a really awesome way. Being on IMDb converts all of that action into a data point that Google likely doesn't have. And that's what I think I like most about the IMDb hack right now.
I love that. Oops. I'm so sorry
Peekaboo.
to Jason. I just turned off your camera by mistake.
Hi, Jason.
I love that. Man, you have so many unique ideas. Can you, before we get off, when you jump off stage, drop your link, a couple of your links, because I think that people just need to dive into what you've got going on and just the approach that you take. It's really unique. And just so everyone knows, Vinny's in PodMatch Elite with me. We get to spend time together almost every week. If we're not texting or sending voice messages, we're in a meeting room, right? Like helping change this podcast economy on both sides of the mic, because we believe there's a lot of ways to make it even better for people. And I believe Vinny's at the forefront of that. The way that Vinny thinks and shows up, I think, is very unique. And I respect it. I love it. I can tell you just care about people and you want to see us all do really well. And it's an honor. And I have not gotten your chapter yet because it's the very last one.
That's it.
Save the best for last, obviously.
It depends on how old you are. Some under 35-year-olds say you got to put the hook and lead with value. So it depends which way you want to start the chapter.
I'm going to go best for last. That's what I'm going to do. Jason, you're chapter 15, so you're pretty close. We'll leave it at that. But page 131, chapter 16. Vinny, I know I'm short on time. I'd love to talk to you more, obviously. But thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate you.
Congrats on this.
Yeah, thank you. And congrats to you, too. I'll see you soon. Guys, I love Vinny. I'm a fan of Vinny, but I'm also a fan of Jason here. Jason, what is up? How are you? I accidentally muted you. Hold on. I pressed all these buttons by mistake when you came on. I just turned off your camera again. Hold on. Here we go. Don't touch anything. I got it. Maybe we're going to get there.
I think.
There we are. It's my fault for
all right
pushing buttons.
If you want me to leave, just say it. I'll bow out.
I'm like, oh, Jason, we can't hear you. I'm like it says Alex removed him from stage. I'm like, oh, what? Must be a software glitch. Jason, so glad to have you here.
Thanks for having me, man. I'm so happy to be a part of this. Yes. This has been the process. I want to applaud you and Mike for keeping us all on point, because I think we probably needed it to some degree to make sure with all of our busy schedules. But this has been an absolute blast, and I'm honored to be a part of it with everybody that's here today.
Yeah, thank you so much. And I didn't do much. I mean, you all showed up and I read the initial draft of the book, and I was like, dang, this is good. Everyone was sharing something amazing. And Mike really ran it. I'm going to bring Mike up on stage next. I noticed Daniel's here, another one of the authors, but on mobile. So I can't bring you up on stage. For some reason, this app doesn't let it happen. So if you switch to a computer, I'll bring you on. If not, thank you for your contribution. But hey, I love that you changed. I saw it on Facebook specifically. Your profile picture is you with a picture of the book. And I was like, I know this guy. I know that book, right? It's so cool. And also, fun fact about Jason, he's going to be speaking at PodPros Q1, which, by the way, I'm going to drop a link to that real quick. We're changing to Pod Talks Quarterly. If you don't already have a ticket, I added 50% off to that. So if anyone wants to attend that and hear Jason share some wisdom, you're going to want to check that out. Vinny, I'm hoping you're going to speak too. I'm after you. Vinny was supposed to speak in the last one, but something got messed up, like tech problems, and we couldn't. The audio video didn't work out, unfortunately. So Vinny's going to probably be there too. But anyway, make sure you grab a ticket that 50% off on there. Jason, I'm psyched to have you do that. But can you just quickly share 30 seconds? So we don't have a lot of time here about yourself, and then we'll kind of get into a question real quick.
Absolutely. So yeah, my name is Jason. I've been podcasting since 2015. I've been told by a few people that I have a good radio voice, so I've decided to lean into that. And here we are podcasting today. And the guest experience that I've had using PodMatch has been second to none. I've got to meet so many phenomenal people. It's helped me make some shifts in my brand. I know I owe a couple thank yous to some people here, but we won't get into that. But ultimately, I've been in love with the podcasting process really since college, when I was doing radio that morphed into running with podcasting as a career. And here we are today.
I love it. It's amazing. 2015. So just so everyone knows, podcast, like on that side of the mic, because that's the host side, right? Is when you started. You started as a host.
Yeah, my friend and I were trying to figure out a podcast. Like, what do we want to do? What do we want to talk about? Really started with no plan. I always tell this story when I'm on podcasts. We ended up starting a show out of spite, which was it's a long story. I recommend it to no one.
That's the right reason to start.
Make sure you
when we talk about why, start
right?
because you hate something, right? So,
well, it was someone.
Oh, dang. Okay.
And again, story for another day. But if you find me on any of the shows that I've guested on, you'll probably hear that story in some way, shape, or form. But no, like when we got into it, it was really. Obviously it's come a long way in the 8 years that I've been a part of the podcast platform. But yeah, when I got started, it was a learning process, but it instantly rekindled the fire I had, because when I had my radio show in college, I felt like I was in a zone, absolutely loved what I was doing. And I wish, looking back, maybe I should have pursued it a little bit harder in regards to an actual career, but I didn't. But everything happens for a reason, and the podcast waves were calling, and I decided to jump on.
I love it. I'm going to mention this real quick. So since 2015, podcast years are like dog years. So add every year is like 7 basically. So you've been doing this for a lot of years. What is that? My math isn't great, but close to 49 years, right? Is what you've basically been podcasting. So
yes, sir.
That's kind of how it works, because people don't last very long in podcasting. You're lucky to see a show stay active for like 3 months. I just want you to share, because again, you being I think you're a phenomenal host and also a great guest. Like I've heard you on both sides of the mic. Do you think that guests at some point should consider being a podcast host themselves? And if so, how do they know how to explore that, or if it would even be right for them? And I haven't gotten your chapter yet, because it's almost one of the last ones. Yeah. I don't know if you cover that necessarily. I don't think that you would, but it's kind of a unique question. I just want to get your perspective on, as somebody who's been on both sides for such a long time.
Yeah, I don't think I talk about that in the book, but that is something that I talk about in the training program that I have. And when I'm talking with people about what their objectives are with podcasting, it really depends on what you want to achieve. And I usually try to reverse engineer people's thinking in the thought that everybody seems to believe in order to leverage the podcast medium, you have to have your own show. But all of us in this room are proving that you can be a podcast guest and bring infinite amount of value to the microphone and succeed and grow your brand and achieve the objectives that you have for yourself. And you don't have to have your own show. So, Alex, you mentioned it. A lot of people will get started with podcasting, and a few months later, all of that equipment is just collecting dust. And I think one of the big reasons for that is because they hear podcasting is a great way to connect with people. It's a great way to get your message out there. But what they don't hear is how much work is involved. And then once things get started, and you have to be so damn consistent in this space in order to truly make your show take off, once other priorities start taking shape or taking hold, the podcast can slide down a little bit. Now we're doing a show every other week, and now maybe I'll get a show out this month, and then all of a sudden the podcast doesn't exist anymore.
We're taking a break 2 years later, still on break.
Yeah, right. But I only think the Dunder Mifflin construction, if anybody's an Office fan, where Jim shows the computer of the Dunder Mifflin website under construction, that's what I think of when I hear a podcast is no longer in existence. But if you start as a guest, you can discover if this medium is right for you. And if you excel and you make connections, you'll grow and you'll say, okay, I love this medium. I love what it's delivering to me. It makes sense for me to start a podcast now. Now I can invest some money in some equipment, and it makes sense because I know I'm going to stick to it. And in doing the guesting side first, you've built yourself a network of people that you can reach out to and have them come on your show.
Yeah.
So you've already got a pool of talent that you can work with, and the collaboration will go the other direction, and you don't have to stress about finding people. And we all know we're not going to stress about finding guests because we have PodMatch, but it's a much easier process, and it will allow you to grow and find your voice, get more confident with your voice, and then all of those skills can translate. So I say start with guesting and then take it
I
from
love
there.
it. We're at the end of our time here, so I want to respect everybody. So I'm going to bring Mike up in a minute here and kind of close with that. But Jason, you're actually you're in both books, right? If I'm not mistaken.
No, I missed the deadline on the host
okay. I wasn't
side,
sure.
so
Like I was about to pick that up. I'm like,
yeah.
I'm thinking maybe you're at chapter 15 and 16 on that one too, or the end of it. But regardless, I do think that anybody who's hearing what Jason is sharing is like, man, I might want to be a host as well. If you're here, our next event starts in, I think, 30 minutes. And we're going to be talking about that other book. So if you are interested in maybe wanting to dabble in podcasts, like being a host, check that out. But I love what you shared there, Jason. I think it's such an important point. If there's one thing we know to be true about podcast listeners, we can all agree on this, is that podcast listeners listen to podcasts. It's a universal truth, right? So if they're listening to you on a podcast and you start a podcast, your chance of having them listen to your show is greater because they already like to listen to podcasts. And Edison Research did report, and the average person who listens to podcasts, I don't know how they figure this out, but Edison Research is a credible source. People on average listen to 7.5 shows. So no reason that if you're like, I'm a guest, if you become a host as well, you'll probably have some built-in listenership start to grow. So anyway, Jason, thank you again for being here. I really appreciate you.
Thanks for having me be a part of this, Alex. It's been my pleasure.
Take care, man. Good stuff. Mike, the man of the hour, welcome.
Hey, Alex.
Look, so this book happened because of the authors, first and foremost, because of the community of PodMatch, but the execution and us holding this book would not have happened without Mike. Hats off to you, Mike. Thank you so much. Everyone, thank Mike here. I mean, this is the reason we're holding this today. Thank you so much for just keeping us all in order and making it happen. I so appreciate it. Thank you.
Well, as I mentioned, I think earlier this week, thank you for creating a platform that was worthy of not one, but two books. So we were happy to do it.
Good stuff, man. I really appreciate it. I'm throwing the link up here again. If anybody has not grabbed it yet, we've got both physical and digital copies. But Mike, before we close out here, I know at the end of our time, do you have anything you want to share about this project or anything like that before we close out? I just wanted to bring you up and say thank you from my end, but I want to hear what you've got as well.
No, I would just say there's a ton of gold in both books. Honestly, I wanted to create these books because I wanted to learn from the best PodMatch members myself. I'm a host and a guest, so it was somewhat of a selfish endeavor, but there's a ton of gold. Yeah. So dig in, make sure there's a lot of good resources, free resources that a lot of the authors offered. There's some great gold there too. So dig into the books and read them, but more importantly, apply them.
Yeah. I really appreciate it. Again, like I was blown away by the first draft I picked up. By the way, the next meeting we're about to have is podcast host master starting in about 30 minutes. Hopefully Mike will be there as well. Tanya and Michael, I see you got your stuff figured out, but I know that you're in this book. So we will hear from you just on the other side of the mic. But man, I thank you again so much. If you don't mind, can you quickly just drop your link to what you do in the chat real quick? I just want people to be able to check that out. I mean, it's all over the book as well. Like we made sure to give credit where it's due for this happening. But if you don't mind, just in the chat, dropping that in there real fast here. Bitesizebooks.com, right? Is where Alicia might be able, Alicia can throw that in there just for anyone who might be interested saying, yeah, I want a book. But Mike, thank you again. Really appreciate you. And everybody, thank you for being here. I know I went a few minutes over. It was hard to coordinate that many people. I've never done that before. But I think it went really well. So again, thank you for being here, everybody. Thank you for the support. Be sure to grab your book, help us out by leaving a review, and spread the word. We're really looking to get it out there to really serve this community. But Mike, thank you again. And thanks everyone for being here. Appreciate it. All right, y'all take care.